CarX Street just releasing for PC and soon will be releasing for console, I wanted to dedicate some time to learn the ins and outs and be able to teach you guys how to start playing this game. How to have the most enjoyable time. I'm going to try and explain this as quick as possible, and I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible and do it as fast as I can. So let's honestly just hop right into it. I want you guys to be able to complete this game as quickly as possible, grind it out, have fun while doing it. So let's go. I'm going to talk about 5 topics today. I feel like that's really all that is needed. And the first topic that we're going to talk about is what to do first. The second topic we're going to talk about is money, leveling, and street coin. I'm sure this is one that interests a lot of you. Third, and the longest section, or the most important section in my opinion, is tuning for race and drifting. This will be very basic tune, but to help you guys get a guideline, as it can be very confusing at first. So we'll talk about that. Fourth, we're going to touch on some important settings that I think you should make sure you change. And fifth, we're just going to talk about enjoying the game. So let's crack right into the first thing. First, what should be your first priority? This is simple. Play the clubs. You simply want to grind out all the clubs, as this will give you a steady flow of money, XP, and new unlocks, while also teaching you some of the basics of racing. Some notes with this when starting out is that money can be pretty hard to come by, so don't waste money on the expensive gas or any cosmetics. Unless you really want to, unless you love that car and really want to deck it out, I wouldn't waste your money on those cosmetics, or the expensive gas is really useless. Invest in smart car upgrades. To help you beat the clubs. For example, every car you should have Racing Plus tires if it's a racing thing. Another big tip is that you will need different classes for different cars, okay? So there's Class A, or Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, Class 5, and you will need different cars for each of these classes to do the different clubs. So you need to do upgrades and engine changes and things like that to quickly be able to get to these different clubs. So quickly on the screen, I'll do some editing behind the scenes, and I'll pop you guys up a list of the best cars for each clubs to maybe make this easier for you guys whenever you're trying to invest. Now, if you're not blowing your money on things you shouldn't be, you should be able to get a car good enough to beat a club, and then the cycle will repeat and you'll have money and you'll have XP, and by the time you need to go to the next club, you'll have enough to buy a new car, and this cycle just repeats, and that's kind of the game flow throughout the clubs. Another note for beginners is that if you do not know, you need to buy garages in this game to store the cars, or you won't be able to drive them. So when you buy a new car, make sure you also can buy a garage if it's needed, and these garages can be either like dirt cheap or hundreds of thousands. So you honestly just need to look and make sure you have enough to buy these garages. A tip I heard when I very first started playing this game was that for the club races, they don't, like, if you just have a sliver of gas left, they don't get rid of it in the club races. Only in the club races do I think this works. So if you just have a sliver, it will not run out during the club race, so you can milk that sliver and then just refuel up after that race. But that might be patched eventually. I'm honestly not sure, so just be careful with that. Do not forget about your NOS. I find myself often forgetting about my NOS. Very often I forget to use my NOS, and it kind of just puts me behind. So for a note for people who don't play a lot of racing games or whatever, don't forget about the NOS. Second, money leveling and your street coin. Now, like I said, I recommend just playing the clubs and kind of slow burning the leveling, but some people like just grinding out, getting the max level, getting a crap ton of money, and getting all that stuff in the beginning of the game. And money can be nice if you're having trouble getting into a certain club, or your car just isn't beating the club, so money can be nice. So let's talk about the best method. Easily, the best method I have seen, found, whatever, is the highway method. I'm sure lots of you have seen about this, but if you just want to grind, if you just want to throw on some music or a show, turn max traffic on, hit the highway, headed straight towards oncoming traffic, get as close as you can to the oncoming cars, and try not to wreck for the max amount of XP and money. Every 10 minutes, I would say you get at least one level, at least, probably 2, and 20k money. Easy. And of course, with that XP, you also get levels, which then gives you street coin. Now, if you're not much of a racer, you can do a similar idea of just drifting around the map. I've also seen that drifting around the airport, I'll show you on screen, is one of the best places to drift around and get close to objects to stack up those points to get money, levels, and that will result in, they're not skill points, they're skill coins, there we go. In my opinion, I like drifting better, and I'm always been more of a drifter over a racer, so I like the drifting method better than the racing method, but the racing method, the highway method, is 100% the best method. So, third, tunes, and this will be the longest section of this video. Now, I'm going to give you I'm not going to give you an all-knowing guide, but I'm going to show you a super simple guideline for racing tunes and your drifting tunes that you can come and look at this video anytime you need help targeting your car towards a certain objective. To start, all 5 of the sections are important in your car, whether drifting or racing. As I talk about some key things for both of these styles, I will scroll through in the background the base tunes for them. First, for racing, some key things. For all the basic things, like the 5 main tune things, engine, trans, body, suspension, and wheels, you generally want to go max, as high as you can with those. This also kind of goes for drifting as well. Remember, without using street coins though, this is important. Don't waste your street coins, unless you know it's a car you want to really deck out. So you will likely go racing on most of your things, okay? And then on your body and suspension and things like that, you'll probably end up going to ultimate. But most of your engine settings will only be maxed out at racing. So let's start with the engine. Just put the parts that you really can without going out of the class for the races you need, or for the clubs you need, or if you just want to get as much power as you want, just put out however much you want in those engine sections. And remember not to spend any of your street coins here. Now onto the transmission. You can change your gear ratio if the car feels like it's getting to a max rev too fast or slow. It's honestly up to you on how it feels. But by default, in most cases, if you've upgraded the part, if you've upgraded into a racing trans, you're going to feel fine when it comes to racing. Racing's a lot easier to tune than drifting, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Now let's talk about the body. You want to make sure that the weight in the car is as low as you can get it. The downforce and air suspension are also as low as you can get it. For racing, this is important. And that's about all in that kind of section, other than, of course, maxing out the parts. Next up, suspension. Just kind of follow what I have on screen. Make sure that your spring lengths aren't crazy high, or your car will wobble really bad and possibly literally roll over. But other than that, just kind of follow what I have on screen for the racing side of things here. Last up is wheels. Tire pressure, honestly, you want higher because it's going to give you more speed. It can be a little bit less steady, so you can kind of keep it in the middle if you want, but generally higher is going to be better for racing. And make sure the tire size you pick is not too huge or not too small for the car. Use your best judgment on what the car should look like without looking silly. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, let's talk about the best for drifting. Engine. You need torque. Having high torque is super important for drifting. You need to have it to drift. It's actually the most important thing for actually getting your car to drift. So your C1, your C2, your class 1, class 2 cars are going to be kind of hard to drift without swapping to a better engine like a C6 engine or a C8 engine. And again, max out what you can for that class that you need for, you know, your clubs, whatever. And if you don't really care, just max out everything. Now for transmission, the best recommendation here is to switch the gearbox to a T50S, the 6-gear sports gearbox. And remember that the same as the torque, in order to drift, you need a differential. You need to have a differential when you go to your trans settings, okay? So make sure you have a racing differential part in there, or you're not going to be able to change the differential. It'll be locked. I'll show you guys on screen. So make sure you have a racing differential. It's important. Now for your gear ratios, if the car is super low gears, it'll take forever to get to the end of the gear. But if your car is super high in the gears, it'll get there super fast. I personally like my gears to be shorter, so I like mine higher numbers. You can follow what I have on screen, for example, here, and honestly, it's kind of what I would just recommend. Just follow it. Makes it nice and simple for you guys without complication. But again, adjust it based on lower if you want the gear to be longer, higher if you want the gear to be shorter. It sounds funny, but it's just opposite. Pretty easy to remember. So let's talk about body. Now, not the same as racing, not a lot really matters here for body, but you want the car to be light, but the downforce and stuff does not matter like it does for racing, but you do want the car to be light, okay? Next, suspension. Make sure you have all the best parts as you can as goes for everything else. Make sure you have and change to all the best parts so that way you can change the settings. Now, this is a lot more important in the suspension side here for drifting. Your spring length is really about how the tires look compared to the fender. So you don't want it to be too slammed or too high up. It'll look silly. Make sure it's kind of like this far off of the wheel. You want it to look clean. You want it to look crisp, okay? That's the point. After that, your stabilizer is the setting in the front you generally want to be higher, around 60, and the setting in the rear you generally want to be lower, around around the lowest it can go, really. It'll make the car feel and drift the way it wants to, with making the back slide and the front slide the way they need to slide, okay? Don't really know how to explain it, okay? Camber, I like mine around -6 in the front and around positive 0.5 in the rear. This is kind of what I do in CarX, you'll see. I like my caster at 10, I like my Ackerman at 7, I like my steering angle at max. Always, your steering angle should always be at max, and everything else I just kind of leave alone for now. I don't really know a whole lot. Don't really want you guys to be playing with a whole lot, so just leave the rest alone, and as long as you have those max parts, it should feel decent. And last is the wheels. Generally, you want your rim to be between 19 and 20. You'll see this in CarX too. Your rim sizes are between 19 and 20, so they aren't huge. If you're in a lighter car, 19, maybe even 18, but I would keep it around 19. And if you're in a larger car, generally 20 or a high width in 19. Again, use your best judgment for the size compared to the car. Don't make huge tires on this little baby car, and don't put baby tires on this big jacked car. Same thing with the racing. Use your best judgment, okay? Tire pressure, you want the lowest, the opposite of with the racing. That way your car will slide more. And you want to use Street Plus or Street tires. Try both, see what you like better. Apparently, Street will give you a little bit more control. Street Plus will make you a little more slidey. Try them. I use Street. Try them. Okay, let me know what you think down below. Sorry, I'm acting weird. All right, fourth, let's talk about some important settings. I'll screw through. Fourth, let's talk about some important settings. I'll scroll through my settings for you to see, but super important ones are first. I recommend max FOV for all your cameras, that way you can see more around you. I recommend you put all your graphic settings at the lowest because it doesn't change the game much and you want more frames. And on the highest settings, they can really suck the frames. I recommend absolutely using a manual gearbox and clutch. You 100% should be using a manual gearbox and clutch. Get used to it, 100%. And other than that, there aren't very many settings in CarX Street as of right now, so I wouldn't worry about too much other than that. Maybe like audio settings and things like that. But again, I'll scroll through it so you can see them all. Fifth, and the last one for this video, is to have fun. Enjoy the game. It's a beautiful game and it's super fun, and honestly a game that hopefully is just on its way to getting better and better. So don't stress too much on focusing about just trying to level up. Just focus on enjoying the fun and enjoying the game and the beauty of the game, and don't make it about the grind and stuff. That'll just kill the game for you. So just focus on having fun instead of trying to just grind your life away. Or if you enjoy grinding your life away, then do that if that's what you have fun doing. Okay guys, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you're now on your way to having a good start to CarX Street. And if you have more questions, comment down below or join the Discord, and I will try to help as many of you guys as I can and help you out the best that I can. But I don't want to waste any more of your guys' time. I got this out pretty quick, and I was trying to make it as simple and concise as possible because I know a lot of people don't want to sit here and watch a 30-minute guide. They just want to watch a little one and get right into the action. So I won't waste any more time. I hope you guys have a good night, a good day, whatever time it is for you, and see you in the next one. Peace.